Who, Haley? Say who, Haley? Yeah, Haley said she was sick. What's she emailed me that she was sick?
She's actually sick, I think.
Yeah, that's what I said, but she told me.
She's lying.
Right.
She has a virus.
This is Bradley's first appearance.
She looked fine yesterday.
She was in class yesterday, looked fine to me. Now the rest of us are sick. I mean, I don't know. If she listens to the recording now, she can hear us talk about it.
Oh no.
Yeah, Haley's definitely sick. She always tells the truth.
All right. So.
You think Virginia's gonna make a run for it?
Oh yeah, no, I heard.
Did I not turn that up?
Bradley's about to
PC, laptop.
What you can say it's about to destroy Bradley.
Why is this not projecting? Oh, it's because it's not plugged in. Amazing how that works. Got that on the recording too. So.
Dr. Joe, what's your final four?
I don't have one. I always root for upsets. So.
Do you have an idea of like who you think is going to make it?
Oh, I think Duke's going to win. So that'd be my prediction.
Duke's terrible. Duke has no chance.
If Zion's out there,
I think if Michigan State plays the way they've been playing, I think they'll be there. I don't even know they're in Duke's region now, are they?
I think Michigan.
I think they are. I think Michigan's in the Gonzaga region, if I remember right.
Yeah.
They're both 2 seeds.
Is that the same surface that was playing March Madness?
No.
How many do you have?
3?
Why do you have 3 surfaces?
They're for the department.
Oh, they're not like your personal.
No, they're not my personal ones. They're departmental ones.
Oh, they were all your personal.
No. No, I didn't pay for it. I personally didn't pay for any of them. No, they're I have one at home too. That's the department's. So
there's 4.
No, there's 3.
Oh.
That's the third one.
Oh.
Yeah. I plan on buying a 4th one, but not today. I want to buy one of the nice Surface laptops like Ashland has. Yeah. With a that's the line. All right. So, what did we talk about last time? I've forgotten already. So we were doing cubic spline things, right? So I just set up some points here. The x's and the y's. This is what we did right at the end of class, right? Right. These are just the differences. These numbers are your differences in your x's. These numbers are the differences in your y's. Right? Over here, we were computing that tridiagonal system coefficients that we need to figure out what the c's are. Remember, we started with natural cubic splines. We'll continue with natural cubic splines today. On Tuesday, we'll talk a little bit about what if you change those endpoint conditions. Remember, we had all of those equations that came up that we were trying to solve for the coefficients on the linear term, the coefficients on the quadratic term, the coefficients on the cubic term. Then we said we got the coefficients on the cubic and the linear in terms of the quadratic term, and we concentrated on solving for the coefficients on the quadratic term. Right? Those are the C's. And we said that we needed a little bit more information to be able to have enough equations to satisfy this exactly with a unique solution. Okay? So when we do natural cubic splines, what we say is that you have to have an inflection point at the end knot, so the first knot and the last knot. So that forces your C1 here to be 0. Now again, in this equation, we've got 5 knots. We've got 5 points we're trying to interpolate. We're going to do that with 4 cubics. We'll have a cubic from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5. We have 4 cubics, right? But we need that 5th equation to help us force that inflection point on the 4th cubic. That's what this last one is here. It's saying force that last one equals, the 1C5 equals 0. It's saying force that last cubic, the 4th one, to make sure its second derivative agrees with that very, very last one on the end and making it 0. So this first one is forcing C1 to be 0. This last one is forcing a values for C4 so that that last coefficient will be, the last cubic's inflection point at the right-hand knot will be 0. Or there will be an inflection point at that spot. Well, I said that all sorts of backwards. The second derivative of the fourth one, or the last cubic, will be 0 at the right knot, at its right knot. Every cubic has a left and a right knot, a left and a right endpoint. Okay? So that's why we've got those two extra equations. We always, for natural cubic splines, that first C1 is always 0. No matter what. Okay? Yes.
So why are we forcing it?
It's just a choice. We have to make a choice to get enough equations to solve for the system exactly. We have to make choices, and that's what we're going to talk about on Tuesday, as well as we make other choices besides just forcing inflection points there. There are other options that we could do. That's what they call it, the natural cubic splines, because you're kind of making a natural choice of making sure that the curvature is 0 there. But there are other options that you could have. You could force a specific value for the curvature. You could force the slope to be a specific value. There are other ways to do it. It's just in the first case that we take care of, we force it to be an inflection point. There are what are called vector drawing programs out there that you may have seen these, where you can click a bunch of points and then make a polynomial go through. It kind of looks like a polynomial go through those points. So you click a bunch of points and then you can change the curvature and change the slope. I would show you an example, like I don't have one of those on this computer. But those actually do them all with natural cubic splines. If you've noticed at all, it doesn't let you change the curvature at the left-hand endpoint. I'll see if I can find one and show you next time what I mean. If you don't have any idea what I mean by a vector drawing program, then I'm just spitting words that you're just ignoring anyway. So I'll see if I can find something that'll actually show you what I mean. But there's, again, you can click dots, and then you can change the slope and change the curvature. And what it's doing with those are actually cubic splines to approximate those things if you're telling it what the curvatures are supposed to be. But again, it's forcing the last curvature anyway. So I'll see if I can find a drawing program that's free that we can actually do that on. Because otherwise, what I'm telling you, probably going in one ear and out the other. Not unlike anything else I'm talking about, I'm sure. All right. Anyway, so we got these coefficients again. Remember that this first one is your delta 1, right? This was 2 delta 1 plus 2 delta 2, and this is delta 2. Right? Those are little deltas that I'm talking about, your changes in your x's. And then similarly for the next two. And then on the system over here, must have copied, oh, that's interesting, it just saved the values. I was going to show you the formula again so that we remembered. All right, so remember we had a formula here that gave us that tridiagonal system. I'll retype it so that we can actually remember what it was. For some reason, it didn't save the formula. Remember we used that if-error formula? So it was, if there's an error, oops, try that again. If there's an error, so what we have to make this a tridiagonal system. This is not tridiagonal the way we have it written, right? Okay. So we use this formula that I mentioned that I found again on Google that somebody else came up with. I can't take credit for it at all. What we're going to do is we're going to go over to this index, or go over to this array of numbers that we calculated for our coefficients. We're going to basically use this formula to shift lower rows over. Okay. So the way that we do that is calculate the index in the array. So the command for that is index. I go highlight whatever the array is that I need. I absolute cell reference that because I want to go back to that specific array every single time. So I don't want that to change. I'm going to do this across by columns. So that's why I've got a double parentheses, double commas here. You have to type in either the row or the column, and we're going to go across the column, so I'm going to leave the row blank. So that's why it's just a comma, comma, and I'm leaving the row part blank. It's row, comma, column. So that's why we're leaving the row part blank. And then again, that syntax is columns. We're going to start, this starts in J3. I want to absolute cell reference that because I want it to start in the upper left-hand corner. I don't want the upper left-hand corner to change. What I do want it to change as we go across and down. So I want to go from J3 absolute cell reference to J3 relative cell reference. Okay. And then subtract the rows that we've already done. Same idea, J3 absolute cell reference to J3 relative cell reference, and then add 1. What we want to do is think about how this works. Right now, we haven't put, the only thing that's in here is 1 column. As I go from J3 to J3, I count 1 row and 1 column, right? Okay. When I add 1, it says go back over here and pick out the first column. Okay? That's what this is doing. If I move over to the next cell, if I go over to K3, I will have 2 columns, but still only 1 row. Right? If I go across 2 columns in 1 row, you'll have 2 minus 1 plus 1 will give me 2. It'll pick out the 6. Right? When I go to the next one, it'll pick out the 2 because it'll have 3 columns, 1 row. Right? Then when I go to the next one, that column number 4 here will have 4 columns and 1 row, but plus 1 will give me 4. I'm out of this array. There's nothing in that array anymore. So that's going to give me an error. It's going to give me a reference error because it's going to say go to the 4th column in an array that only has 3. So that's why we use the if error column. When I'm outside of the index or the array that we want to use now, it's going to put in a 0. So that's how we're going to get that tri-diagonal system put in there. So I'm going to close off this parenthesis for the index and then tell it to put in 0 on the error. And then, of course, yeah, Marshall.
So if you're trying to do it the other way, and so like you were leaving your columns blank, would you just leave that one?
I think you need to flip-flop your rows and columns in the formula. Flip-flop them around, and I think it'll work too. I think you need to row. Sorry, go ahead.
I meant just for like future reference, if we wanted to just do it for the rows, we would just do rows, and then we do commas and a second comma for that.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. That's right. So let's think about why this is a 2 here, which is right. It should be a 2, right? When again, that columns minus rows plus 1 is counting how many would be right here in this little spot, right? Because we started up in this upper left-hand corner. There's 2 columns and 2 rows. So we get 0 plus 1 says go grab the first element in the first element is in that column, in that row. Right? And again, why this is a 0 is if I think we got 1 column and 2 rows, 1 minus 2 is negative 1 plus 1 is 0, but there's not an index 0. So it's giving you an error, so it spits a 0 back out. So that's how we got that tri-diagonal system. And the other ones we just typed in. We put a 1 here and put zeros the rest of the way down. Zeros here, a 1 and a 0 there. So far so good? I just want to remind, I know we did this last time, but I also know I did it quickly last time. So I want to make sure that we go over it. Because good news is I didn't have to have the root canal, though. I didn't have any pain, so they're like, well, come back and see if you need to do any later. So I was okay. I didn't have to have my tooth drilled on. So, all right. So now I want to solve this system. So I want to copy this and put it in Geogebra because I'm going to do some other things in Geogebra that I want to do a little bit simpler. In particular, I want to plot the points and I want to plot the cubic spline. And I can do that in Geogebra fairly straightforwardly.
Are we going to use Geogebra?
Yeah, it's free. You can download it or use the online version. Either or. Yeah, I absolutely want you to use the Geogebra stuff. There are row reduction things that you can do in Excel. There's a solver in Excel where you can actually, it'll solve the system of equations for you. But it doesn't have the graphics capabilities. So you're going to end up having to move it all over to GeoGebra anyway. So, I mean, if you would rather solve the system in Excel, you can. But since I want to do some things in GeoGebra anyway, I'm just going to move it over to GeoGebra. All right, so I'm going to view. Let's see if I can zoom in a little, make it bigger, perhaps. Yeah, I'm not going to fight with it right now. So let's go over to the spreadsheet here. Let's just open this up a little bit. Go up here and paste that matrix. All right, so that was the matrix that we came up with in Excel. The reason why I didn't do all of this you could do a lot of this in GeoGebra spreadsheet, but I don't think GeoGebra has that if error command like we had before. Yes.
How did you paste it?
I just hit paste after I hit copy. Did it not work for you? Did you kick it?
It doesn't work, but the other day it was pasting in the graph, and now it's not doing anything.
I didn't mind one time, and then I opened it again, and then I did it, and it worked. But then now it's not working.
Yeah, the online one for some reason gets clunky sometimes.
See, and it pastes it in the graph.
Can you drag it over? Try this. Get rid of the graphics view to start with. So go up here to that one there, yeah, and then go to view, and then click off the graphics to start here. Now I'll try pasting it just for the humor make. What is it pasting?
It's still on the graph. It's pasting it again on the graph.
Now it's making points.
Should we just try downloading it?
I would try to download it and see what happens. That's weird.
I downloaded it and it went.
Okay.
Well, because the one time, whatever we did last time on GeoGebra, I couldn't get it to paste, and then I closed it, and then right when class ended, I pressed paste and it pasted.
Of course it did. That makes sense.
How do you get to the spreadsheet?
Go to.
You go to that in the right hand corner, like on your graphic, down that one right here, and then does it say it in there?
It's not there.
Because then sometimes
Go
when
to
you
the-
type in
you go to the
Google,
upper
then you have to
left
type in the classic version.
Oh, because it's just on the graphic. That's why. It's just trying to do a graphic calculator. So yeah, do classic. There you go. Then you should be able to get it.
Okay.
And there it says spreadsheet. There we go.
Do you use 6 or 5?
5 is I think what I'm using. But 6 should work. There shouldn't be any issue with it. I don't think. Of course, I. Alright. Alright. One of the reasons why I use GeoGebra is because I can change this over to a matrix. So all I did was highlight this, I right-clicked, and said create a matrix. Now that should work on the spreadsheet online too. Yours wouldn't copy either?
Doesn't it have like Control C and Control V?
Yeah,
It worked.
It's the Mac people that are having issues.
The V, if you did the
She's have a Mac.
Oh, I got it. It puts it in.
Hey, look, Morgan's worked.
Look,
But it
not
also
Mac.
puts it in.
Not a Mac.
I click and I'm gonna be
It's okay.
How do I get it? It came up here too.
Yeah, you would just move that
Oh.
thing. Yeah, I can't see it.
How'd you make the matrix again? I was gonna write it down.
There's an effect.
How'd you, what did you do for that part?
I just, when it's in the spreadsheet, just highlight it like you would in Excel, hit right click, and then that create pops up, and then you can select matrix from there.
Well, we can just manually put in the numbers, right?
Yeah, except what we're doing here in a minute, there's going to be like a 22 by 22 system. I don't think
We'll just have to type fast.
That was my plan, at least.
Okay.
All right. So far, so good?
Yeah, I'll just write it down.
That's what.
Just write it down.
It's the old-fashioned.
Anyway, of course, different things with different GeoGebras have different issues because that's par for the course for today. All right. So the command for solving this is, again, you can actually, I mean, if you're having issues with GeoGebra as far as getting things pasted and using it to solve, you might want to do the solver in Excel instead, and then just take the one column of things that you need. So if you had to retype it, it wouldn't take so long. There are solvers in Excel, or like I said, if you can figure out how to do row reduction on Excel without using the built-in solver, and put together a spreadsheet that does that, I'd be more than happy to do extra credit for that too.
How much?
How much? I don't know. Depends on how many people do it.
50 points.
You know what? Tell you what. I'll do a pool of 25 points, but it'll get cut down by how many people do it.
Oh.
What is it?
Okay, no one else will do it. I'll get like a huge percentage. I mean, if one person does it, that's
Yeah.
So you make row reduction without using the function?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that would on
And if a whole bunch of people end up doing it, I'll increase the pool of points to split
the
up.
extra credit is.
I'll make it. You know what? I'll start it at 30.
Wow,
Yeah.
so generous.
How many?
No,
Well, if only one person does it.
Wait, okay, so you know how the class is worth 5 points?
Yeah.
So then the
I get scaled.
30,
Yeah.
oh, it will.
Yeah. 30 out of 5. Yes. Well, somebody had asked about, is there possibilities for doing extra credit without it involves programming? There you go.
Is there extra credit with programming?
I didn't know.
What's that?
So is
What,
there
what
extra
about
credit?
programming?
Sure, there could be some extra credit with programming.
Okay, what's that one?
Do row reduction with programming.
Okay.
What happens if we write a program that could take in Excel sheets and create splines in Python?
Sure.
How many points?
How many points? I don't know. Depends on how good the program is.
1500. Let's do that one.
There's graphics and everything.
All right, Captain. Oh, we got our team down.
Get the team back together.
Let's get put the team back together.
All right, Captain. Let's do it.
Yeah, whatever gets you guys to do this stuff, I don't really care. I mean, seriously. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, we're trying to learn the stuff, right? So if you're learning it, that's all that really matters.
What if we wrote a program that did the Lagrange?
I'm gonna do it.
Interpolation stuff? Yeah, sure.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So basically, if we do programming follow anything we learned in this class, we
Yes.
Cool.
can't program.
I know. That's why I'm trying to think of other things for you. All right. There will be other things that are not programming. I promise. All right. Or you can join in with somebody who is programming. I'm okay with that too. If you want to do group programming for extra credit, I'm okay with that too. Yes. It has to be for this class. That's where I draw the line. It has to be something germane to this class. Okay. All right. Again, the command for doing the solving in, once we have it as a matrix, the command for solving in GeoGebra is reduced row echelon form. If you just start typing the word reduced, it'll pop up.
Okay, sorry, I just got the thing typed in. How do you make it a matrix again?
Highlight the cells that we're and highlight it, right click, or whatever you have to do in a Mac. Create matrix.
You have to do the algebra, right? Okay.
It's in the other campus, so you have to look at it.
Okay, and then go like.
That, and then whatever you have to do, and then create.
Oh.
You might just hit go to your view, that upper right hand corner thing again.
Wow. That's-
Yep. And then view,
And I don't know what it did.
and then click on algebra. There you go.
I was like, oh cool, it reduced it.
Okay. Whew. All right. Notice that when you create the matrix, GeoGebra puts in a variable name to reference it by. So if I just hit enter on that command, it's at the very, very bottom. I know it's small. but it's telling you to put the matrix in here, but if you hit enter on the command, it automatically highlights that, so if you start typing over, it'll get rid of matrix and put in whatever you're typing. We want to put in M1 here.
Yeah, I don't see nothing.
Like I have my spreadsheet and I hit matrix.
Upper right hand corner. No, up farther. The next one up. There you go.
Just,
Click on the Geogebra box.
Yeah, I think
Algebra box.
You already put the school and you just have to put your school sign in for it.
There you go.
Click off the algebra box.
Well, click, no, turn it on. It should
Oh,
be-
turn it on?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh.
There it is. There's your matrix.
Where did
Oh,
you
look
type
at where's the
reduced
bottom
in?
thing, yeah.
Oh, yours types in an input, sorry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yours just types in an input. Where it says input, you can start typing.
Oh.
Sorry, depends on what version you have.
I've been trying to get down.
Is that all? Only 3?
You have 3 out of 28.
Oh.
So it's slow, but I always have your YouTube to look back on this.
Who we are still not going to get through everything I want to do today. That's okay.
What?
So we're just not going to get through everything I want to get through today, but that's okay.
It happens.
Yeah, but whatever.
But we're learning.
You know, my goal for this class is that you learn stuff. It's by you learning stuff, I'm learning stuff, because I haven't done cuticle spline before either. Which would probably be why I didn't know all these issues popped up with the Macs trying to get the things to copy over and stuff.
I learned not to get mad. That's what I take.
What'd you do to get the M2 again?
Yeah, and then go to.
I started typing in the command reduce row echelon form. Started type RED, and the command should pop up. Hit enter,
And then type in.
and then type in one where the matrix part is. You probably pull the matrix thing out now. And get rid of the front. Yeah, there you go. Just type in M1 right and put it in those parentheses. Yep. There you go.
Thanks.
No,
Yep.
I don't have an
That'd be really funny if I did. Well, funny for everybody else. Man, it's so funny for me.
I wouldn't laugh.
You wouldn't laugh?
No.
Oh, come on. Seriously? If I fell over, you wouldn't laugh? Kind of figured.
down the stairs.
Okay, so let me input bar here. Okay, just start typing reduce row echelon form. So now just type in the M1. Here we go.
Like whenever my brothers and I go to whatever, we're always like.
All right, we all in the same spot now? I hope. Whew, good. All right.
So bad.
Now, this should work, but again, other things should have worked up to this point too. Well, again, the nice thing about Geogebra is I should be able to click this and drag it and pop it over into the spreadsheet so I have it. Hopefully. Click and drag it. Actually, let me do one other thing before we do that, because right now those values are rounded to 2 decimal places. Let me, if we go over to options, hopefully you have an options button somewhere. If not, we'll have to find it. Right now it's rounding things to 2 decimal places. Let's change it to 5 just to make it a little bit more accurate.
It's gotta be on there somewhere.
Now notice that I changed it to 5. It did it here for the algebra window, right? But it didn't do it back over in the spreadsheet, so I want to recopy it over. I only wanted to do that so I get a little bit more digits of accuracy. Now they're in there. You can do 5. You might want more accurate depending on what application you're doing. All right.
So you
Click and drag is what should work. It's what worked on mine. Sadly, the Mac didn't work, or nobody's working.
It says down.
it's just not working.
It says like plus, like you can drag it, but then it doesn't put it.
Yeah, like it like shows the time.
Okay.
Well, we could just type it in.
Oh, you can paste it. Wait,
Take it over.
never mind.
If you right click it it says record the spreadsheet.
Did it do it?
Right click and look.
I didn't do that, so just ignore what I said.
You ever use Desmo stuff for Joe?
I have.
They have
They have a spread.
we used to do this in high school. They have like a guess who game where you like get a. It's fun. No, like in high school we used to do it for graphs, and you would see a picture, and then you had someone else. You could see the picture, and then you talk to someone else on the computer, and you describe what it looks like, and they have to put in the equation.
Oh, okay.
We could do something like that.
Good. Let me see. Oops, cancel.
Oh, that was the whole matrix. Yeah, if you record the spreadsheet, but it puts it in one box.
Oh yeah, you don't want it in one box, unfortunately. It doesn't copy it over, really?
No.
Actually, it's going to be.
Yeah, no, like gives a shadow of it.
I can't get it to edit. For heaven's sake.
Hell sucks. I don't want to hear that.
This isn't like us really paid to open the video.
Yeah, well, like $200.
I just got one time and then caught on fire. Because I tried to play like
Okay. Can you copy it and paste it into the input bar? Literally just copy and paste it to the next bar below it. And not hit enter.
I can duplicate it.
You can copy and paste this.
actual games. So.
No.
The settings for this.
Abstraction of the stuff.
You don't need to actually. If you're going to type it, you don't have to type the whole thing because all those are the answers.
Oh, so it's.
Yeah, we just want the answers. I don't even want the whole matrix. I was just doing it so you grab the answers easy. If you're going to copy and paste, or if you're going to type, just type in the answers.
Oh, okay. Just like right here.
Yeah, it doesn't matter where. Because we're going to work. We need to build off. Remember, we need to build off the answers. These are the C's, so we need to build off of them to get the B's and the D's. This class is going so well today.
We also don't have an options bar, so.
You don't have an options bar to change the roundings?
You can, what did I do? I did it.
I just got the app though. Here it is.
What?
If you go to settings,
What does it mean by
how do you get there?
Of course, you.
Well, I'm in the app
What does it mean
now.
by
Oh,
anything?
Okay. Anyway.
Did you go settings?
We'll figure out some way to get them copied over. Or again, like I said, it might be easier to, maybe we should just do this in Excel, everything in Excel, and then copy the numbers over that we need later. Because we know you can all copy from Excel over, yes?
Over to Geogebra.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you got the app, you should.
Oh, okay, let me try
I just got my app downloaded.
Yay!
Yeah, I
Oh.
did.
Everything works on the
The installer.
Everything works on the app? Okay.
The installer just downloaded, never mind.
Oh.
No, you're gonna get.
Were you able to copy and paste on the spreadsheet? Of the app? Oh,
I don't have the
It's
app.
installed.
Oh, whatever.
Okay, now I have the app.
Okay.
It's not working.
It's installed.
It's doing the same thing in the app.
You didn't do the
No, it's doing the exact same thing.
What do you think altitude is going to be?
Yours works?
Yeah.
On the app.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, you do it.
For the copy.
I'm just looking forward to this one.
But you can't get a copy from the algebra window over, though, right? Sarah?
Like, I
Can you take that over? That won't work? Oh, for heaven's sake.
Something, I just did something.
What if can we do?
I don't know. I just haven't fixed it.
Did you do Command B?
Okay,
That's what I did.
it's downloaded.
That's what mine did too. I did it there too, but I just did it.
Well, what's up?
I've tried to see if you could copy and paste it over to Excel,
We got it now.
but not the other way around, right? You can copy from Excel to the spreadsheet, but not from the spreadsheet to. Sorry, you can copy from Excel spreadsheet to GeoGebra spreadsheet,
Yes.
but you can't take the matrix in GeoGebra and copy it to the spreadsheet.
Let's see.
so easy if you could just drag it over.
Yeah, it would be like I did. Because
And it drags.
Greta can drag it over, yes.
Drag.
Yeah,
Yeah.
mine worked from
Did you drag it?
Geogebra to Excel.
Yours worked as a matrix?
No, you
Like
just did
dragging
a
it.
Well, if I just do this.
Well, let me try it. Copy.
Oops.
Yeah, mine just did it too.
I think it's just pasting that.
No, I did.
I just
I
copied
did
and
it.
pasted
Ah.
from Geogebra.
Yeah, I just did it. I just did it from Geogebra.
Right, no, that's not what I meant. I meant the actual
Oh.
matrix.
Oh.
The matrix that's in the algebra window.
No.
Yeah, so that's what I got.
Yeah.
I didn't do it.
I'll figure out a workaround.
Have you options?
This one.
I like to be able to-
Again, all we want are the C's.
Okay.
I never really liked all-
We'll figure out a workaround somehow.
Oh, change round.
So,
Yeah.
everyone-
My apologies. I didn't know that there were such issues with different GeoGebras on different machines. Well, especially when the way I figured out how to get the matrix to copy over to the spreadsheet was I read it online. I Googled it, it worked. I assumed it worked. What I get for assuming. It happens. All right, anyway, I still want to show you the main reason why I want to use GeoGebra and why I was doing this over here besides the solving part. All right. These numbers are the C's, right? The 4 C's that we need. Right? So I'm going to just copy and paste these down here. At least I thought it. Okay. So those are the C's. We're trying to figure out the B's and the D's, right? You need all of those things, correct? Let me move this over one more column here. All right, I'm going to go back over to Excel. That's why I said it may be just easier to go ahead and do all the solving in Excel and then move the values over. I was using the solving capabilities of GeoGebra so that we could just do the things in GeoGebra and not have to go from Excel back again, but it is what it is. So let me go back over to Excel here. I want to grab all of this. Because remember, to calculate your B's and your D's, I need the little d and the capital D, right? Okay. So let me grab all of these and paste them over. Like I said, it may turn out that we just have to, do all of our solving in Excel and then just copy it over. Because what I want to use the GeoGebra for really is to graph the spline so you can see the picture. And then also make a function out of the spline so that we can do some interpolation ideas, calculate some errors and other data points. There's other things I want to use GeoGebra for. So I definitely need to use GeoGebra, but it may be too much of a pain to do the solving in GeoGebra if you can't get between the matrix and the spreadsheet. I don't want you to have to retype everything. That's not the point. You don't want to make technology be harder on your life. All right. So one of the things that we can do in GeoGebra is, now that I've also got the graphics window up, and I definitely want that graphics window up. Those are the points X, Y that I just highlighted, right? One of the things that you can do, same idea with the create. I can create a list of points. And it'll put those points on a graph. Now, I'm going to leave the labels on here for now, but we could get it to where they won't show the labels, and I'll show you how to do that in a little bit. We're definitely going to do that when I do the bigger data set here in a minute. Okay. So, how do we calculate? I'm going to shift this down a level here, just so it matches the other ones. How did we calculate the? Actually, I should probably move them up a level, but that's all right. How did we calculate the B's? What formula did we come up for the B? the change in y over the change in x. So the capital delta I over the little delta I, right? So that is, was that E15 divided by, or sorry, D15 divided by C15 in my on the screen here. So it was D15 divided by C15, and then minus. So you change in x over 3, so C15 divided by 3 times 2 times. Okay, so the initial, so that should be the one that's right next door to it. So F15, 2 times F15 plus F16. Right? Oh, yeah, I do need that. I should have. No, it's all right. The last one here is a 0, so my guess is I'm going to get an error when I copy this down, but because it doesn't know what this last one is. Remember, the last one was 0 here. I should have typed it in. There it is. Remember that last B is based on the artificial C that we introduced to force the inflection point, so it needs to be in there. All right, how do we get the D's? Okay, so that's C of I plus 1 is what? F16? And then minus F15? And then we divide it by 3 times, yeah, C15? And I'm going to copy that down.
You guys go back to that one.
Yeah, maybe. You can't really see it.
Can you make
Just
it
what is that column?
You want me to write it on the chalkboard? Yeah. So your B sub I again was capital delta sub I over little delta sub I, and then it was minus little delta sub I over 3 times 2C sub I plus C sub I plus 1. So on the screen, what was that? That was D15 divided by C15 minus C15 divided by 3 times 2 times F15 minus F16. I think. And then the D sub I is C sub I plus 1 minus C sub I over 3 delta sub I. So on the screen you should have F16 minus F15 divided by 3 times whatever little delta sub I was, C15. That should be what's in that cell. Yes?
Is it like Excel where you just type equals? And
Yeah.
Because every time I do that, it just gives me the formula and it stays.
You may click on the cells instead of typing.
I did click on the cell. I tried typing it here and then I tried clicking here.
You got a space in between your equal sign and your D, it looked like. That didn't matter. Delete it all out for the time being. Just type in equals D15 and see what happens.
Does it have to be capital?
I tried
No.
that. I tried doing the just like clicking in.
Wow.
Is yours working?
Well, I'm just trying to get things to be like
Just type
in
in
the right row.
D15 or yeah. I was doing that earlier too.
Well, maybe we can just do it on Excel.
You can do it on Excel. Yeah. You know what? I'm getting frustrated enough where I'm going to just do it all on Excel and copy back over for the thing anyway, so. Okay.
So just like labeling wise,
Mm-hmm.
the column E, B sub I.
Yeah, your E is B sub I, your F is C sub I. And D sub I.
They had a, well, I had a,
Oh, beggar. I don't know why that's not working. It's really weird. It's the same cell reference ID as you use in Excel. Yours is working?
It was just a lot.
I haven't been able to do it.
Oh, gotcha. Hey guys, you working?
Yeah, I got the same problems.
You have the same problem?
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, for heaven's sake. All right.
I'm just gonna download the thing before I.
Nah, scrap it. It doesn't matter. We'll do it. We'll do it all in Excel. I still need these values, so let me just copy this over to Excel. Well, next time I will show you how to use the solver in Excel if you haven't used it before. We'll just do the solving in Excel. I was trying to do the solving in Geogebra because it's easy and it relates to stuff that you do in linear algebra. Because you just use the reduced row echelon form and grab the last column. So I was trying to relate it to another class, and apparently that was my mistake. Why should I try to connect ideas to other things? Anyway, what was I thinking? Let's just do this in Excel. All right. Let me copy the C's down here. These are our C sub I's. Let's just make a copy of this down here. Stop it. Stop being a pain. Or be a pain. Continue to be a pain. That's what I want. All right. Let's try this again. So much better. It doesn't matter where I type it, but let's type it where we were typing it to begin with. Because I think I had it lined up here, right? In Excel. Okay. So this is our B's. Our B's again are capital delta sub I, so that in right now is in D12. Little delta sub I is in C12. And then it's minus C12 divided by 3 times 2 times C12 plus D12. Not plus D12. I'm doing the wrong thing. Sorry. F12 and F13? Or F11 and F12. F11 and F12, sorry. No, these are adding. This is my B's, right? Oh. Those should be added. This should be added. This should be a plus. Well, you're going to get to put a tick mark down for class anyway today, so. As bad as this is going, you deserve a tick mark at least.
It's not your fault, Joe.
No, it's technology's fault. Blame it on somebody else. That's fine. I like that idea. All right. Yes.
Why is it called ball?
Well, because in the other sheet, there's a Boeing spreadsheet. There.
I didn't get to.
Where is my data? Oh, there should be data. There should be some stock data in there. But it's not in that spreadsheet.
It's funny, I just checked because they had like sold out there.
Well, is yours the same line?
No, that was why I wanted to use their stock data, because there's a big drop at.
Minus.
Well, now I don't know if it'll do what I wanted to do here after I'm done with this. Well, they don't necessarily need that thing. Yes.
We have a question.
Okay.
Cindy and I got the wrong answer, but we both got it.
Oh, is this supposed to be F14 and F15 then?
Is it F14 and F?
It's the 0, yeah, you use the 14.
0?
14, this is it.
Okay,
What?
so 14 and
They didn't use the 0, they
Well,
used the next two of the
we
C's.
Oh, yeah, you have to use the 0.
So then they put the
Yeah.
zeros on.
Okay, I got it now.
Oh, this was this what I wrote. This was what I had in
Trying to
GeoGebra.
match it up to the
Yeah.
GeoGebra, but it should be F14 and 15.
Yeah. Like we made the lines equal, we made everything, so it would be.
Oh, I got you. It should be 14 and 15 then. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. It needs to be the 0. It has to be the top one.
Okay.
Okay. That's okay. I really should have this lined up one anyway. Because really, these B's line up with the top 4 C's. So really, I should have it shifted up one anyway. We'll take care of it when we move it over. All right. This was your B sub i's. This is going so well. The best part about this is I've probably spent 10 hours preparing for this class. At least. I mean, at least trying to get things together, trying to find data, trying to get things to work, going back and forth between programs. I've probably put at least 10 hours just into this one topic.
Is it worth it?
Which expletive would you like me to put in front of the word no? What's that?
So you teach this class, your assignment schedule.
No.
They
Whichever expletive, no.
Who else would teach it?
take turns, don't they?
I don't care who else teaches it.
What if-
I don't care. Someone else is doing it.
Aren't you in charge?
Well, what if?
I am in charge. This is why I'm not doing it.
You could say that you've already.
You're teaching it next time.
You already have a job, girl. There you go.
You're graduated.
No, they could say that you've already done it, so you're prepared.
Yeah, I know.
And then you go.
They could say that, but they're wrong.
Then we can show them all the recorded lines.
That's exactly right. There's video evidence of the reason why I should not be in front of this class. All right, this one. This one for the D's should be your what? F12, parentheses, F12 minus F11. Yeah, the 0, the first one, the first C sub I, maybe I wrote the wrong numbers up here. Your first C sub I has to refer to the 0.
So it's
Whatever it is.
15 minus 6.
Yeah.
15 minus 14.
15 minus 4, okay, I might have the wrong numbers up there then. Okay. And then divided by, what we'll do now, what I'll make sure I do next time is show you how to use the solver in Excel. So I'll just do the solving in Excel. Okay? And I want to wait till next time because I have to remind myself how to do it. Otherwise, I'd show you today. Divided by 3 times C12. This has been a disaster enough. I don't want to spend another 10 minutes for me to try to figure out how to use the solver. Plus, I think you have to download a tool pack to do it. I don't think it's built into Excel. If you're in the stats class,
Oh,
we've
the
done.
solver add-in?
Yeah, it's the solver add-in. Yeah. Well, like I said, I think you have to add in. I think you have to add in the solver. I don't think it's hard to use. I just have to remember how to do it.
I'll abstract.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, copy these down. Oops. And boom. All right. That what we get for D's?
Yep.
Oh, thank goodness. Whew. All right. I do now want to pay, for lack of my better judgment here, we're going to copy this back over to Geogebra. Okay? I want the B's. Again, I should have lined this up separately so I could copy it all as one block. I want these 4 B's. I want these 4 C's, and I want these 4 D's. I don't need the 5th C. Remember, the 5th C is the one that forces that last inflection point. Okay, I don't need that one, but I do need the 4 B's, the 4 C's, and the 4 D's lined up. All right, so for lack of, I'm going to kill my GeoGebra and just restart it. GeoGebra is there. All right. View. Are we still talking about basketball?
Huh?
Huh? Huh?
Yes.
No.
Some of them.
We're just talking
All right. I want the B's, I want the C's, I want the D's. I also want the X's and Y's. So I'm going to copy those first. So let's get the X's and Y's over. Options, font size. Let's go bigger. Okay. There's the X's and the Y's. I want the B's. I'm going to shift these B's up a little bit so that they're straight across. I'm shifting it up because remember, to form the cubic functions, I need to read this across. So I just want to put them all on the same line. So I've got Y1, I'll have B1, I'll have C1, I'll have D1. I'm just putting them all on the same line. You know what? Let me do one more thing. Let me change the rounding here so that we just get some more decimal places. Go back over, get my C's. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and get the D's at the same time. I'll just shift it myself. Oops. All right. We're almost done with this. This has been an excursion. It's okay. You learn more from your failures than your successes, right? You know what I learned? I'm not teaching this class next time. I am having a good time. You guys are taking it well. I haven't had any rotten tomatoes thrown at me, anything along those lines. But I actually had things thrown at me in class before, so that's fine.
like what?
Water bottle.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I told you to do it.
So do you want
Well, why not? You should do that in case you have a bad professor.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
I am able to change decimal places,
Right.
but it just changed it in one column for me.
You didn't change them all at the same time? Of course it didn't.
Let me see if I try it again.
How did you do that?
It might still store it. It might just not be showing it to you because I didn't actually have to recopy it. So it might store it anyway.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We'll find out here in a minute because if your cubic misses the point or they don't match up, then the rounding error might be a little bit bigger. So we might have to fix it, but it might be stored in there. You may have to worry about it. Okay. All right. So here's how we're going to make our cubic. Let me expand this just a little bit. All right. So remember, each of our cubics here, remember we have the y coordinate, the b times the linear piece. So remember that was x minus x1. We have the c times the quadratic piece. Remember that, so that's x minus x1 squared. And then we'll have the d times the x minus x1 cubed, right? So I want to do this in a piecewise fashion, and I also want to have the ability here later on, probably next time, just looking at the time. I want to have the ability of actually declaring this as a function later on and being able to use the values so we can compute some things, which I'm not going to get to today. I'll have to do it on Tuesday. So I want to use the if command. That'll give me a piecewise defined function. So in the if command, the first thing is going to be if the x is in between these two values, then we want to use the function, otherwise we just want to kill it. So we'll make it 0. Okay? So the function here, so I want to type in, what do I want to type in? I want to type in if A2 is less than or equal to x is less than A3, Then I want less than or equal to into the first part, but less than in the second part. Because again, I'm going to want to use this later on to type in specific x's, and I don't want to double it and put it in both pieces at the same time. Okay? So left-hand side, use less than or equal to. Right-hand side, just use less than. Okay? So if we're in between those two x's, we want to type in, we want to use those values. So I want to use b2 plus c2 times x minus a2, and then plus d2 times x minus a2 squared, and then plus e2 times x minus a2 cubed. See if I can expand this maybe a bit so you can, no, I'm not going to be able to now that I started typing. Well, we did b2, that was the first one. We did plus c2 times x minus a2, literally the letter x, because I'm using it as a function. But the next one was d2 times x minus a2 squared. The last one is e2 times x minus a2 cubed. Remember, we did this as an if command to start. If our x value is not in between those two things, let's have it spit out as a value of 0. So we'll put comma 0. That's the else part. If the condition wasn't met, it's just going to spit out 0. So far, so good? No? What? Doing what?
It's the same thing, it doesn't actually calculate anything, it just does the letters.
That's not what I should do. Wow. I'll have to investigate what's going on, because that's not what's going to happen at all. There's not a lot of point in having a spreadsheet if you don't have the commands built in.
Yeah, well, I was trying to mess around with this settings. I don't
Yeah. Then I'll go back into enter.
Try and click the function thing. So when you click this box, well, you don't have it.
Or we can just kick it.
Is yours working?
Morgan, did yours work?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, yours looks good. That's what it should look like.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it should look like.
Everybody got a Lenovo, I guess. Everything's been working on mine.
That's precisely what it should look like.
Can I see?
That's precisely what it should look like. It should look like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will have to investigate why yours isn't coming up that way. That's just, I mean, that's an absolutely useless spread.
You got yours?
Wait, it drew it.
Well, good. Did it draw it?
It's supposed to be this line like this.
Okay, when I do this.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a cubic, yeah.
Yeah, she wasn't zoomed in on that part.
No, I had
It's
it.
on the property.
Oh, yeah, it'll spit back out. It'll spit back the function that looks like an if. Yeah, that's right. That's good, yeah.
Okay, but
Did yours spit out a graph?
I also know
I don't know.
It is carried on.
But do I need to do something else here?
What did you do, Sid?
I was missing.
I mean, it'll, in the cell, it'll show an if command when you hit enter. Sarah, did yours work?
I gave up trying a long time ago.
I don't want to use that line.
Okay, do you have like a little thing that comes up sometimes?
That's not what I
where you
got.
type in numbers like down here.
That's what yours looks like. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, Julia.
I just got like a white text
Like
graph.
this came up here.
How did you get that?
I put it in
Picked
like
up
what you
this,
said.
I changed it from
My-
numbers
Do you have an equal sign in front of the F?
So double click.
I might have forgot that.
And that's all I did and that worked.
No. I don't know what just happened. I just lost it. I just lost my whole equation. I put an equal sign in front of it.
Oh my gosh.
Alright, this is fine. Is there a way to do, is there an undo button in Geogebra?
I think you just hit Control Z.
Yeah,
that would.
undo. Alright.
You know what? Can we just do that on the whole lesson today?
So I put, okay, I'm gonna put an equal sign in front of it again. I can tell.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put an equal sign in front of it. Watch me so it doesn't screw up.
No.
Wait, that
Equal. Okay, so equals if
A2
is less than equal to x is less than a3, comma b2 plus c2
I think it's
minus a2 plus b2
Let me highlight all of it.
a2 squared plus b2 and x minus a2 cubed equals 0.
okay. Yeah.
It's,
It's probably doing one specific x value.
Use B, C, D, and that's what's good.
I don't know why it's doing that.
Is your A2 is your head.
I have no idea why it's doing that.
I downloaded the same version of Geogebra as you too.
Oh, holy cow.
Maybe try to read
Well, assuming you can get to this point, let me finish this off and then we'll redo this next time. Assuming you get to that point, you should be able to copy and paste that down. And it looks like that. That was what it was supposed to look like. And then remember we talked about doing creating a list of points. If I do that on this, I just want to create the list of points to show that we really do go through the 5 points. And notice it looks nice and smooth and all the curvatures match up. So if you actually get Geogebra to work, it should look like that. I'm very irritated because I spent a lot of time preparing for class.
Yeah, I got it.
So,
That's pretty cool.
it is pretty cool, which is why we're going to do some stock data with it and analyze errors in between dates. And then I was going to have you look at some baseball data. That was what the file I sent to you. And I was going to have you play around with creating some splines. And then I have a big idea for your next major assignment. And if we can't get things to work, all that goes right out the window. So, I am having a good time right now.
It's just almost the end of the week.
That's inappropriate.
And you know what? This isn't the worst thing that happened today. So,
Okay.
yeah. So, it's nothing like. It's just annoying. I mean, there are more important things that could happen that are worse. So, really trying to deal with just not going to get it. But it's okay. Life happens sometimes. When life happens, just have a baby baby. It's very true. All right, I'll figure out what's going on with these other versions and see what we can do.
Well, Sydney got it.
I got it.
Oh, Levi got it.
Wait, how did
You only care
I don't know how Levi got it.
I was just clicking buttons also to change.
Hey, yours was awesome. That's exactly what it's supposed to look like.
How'd you do it?
I just waited.
Did you
No, I'm
just-
sure
You
got it.
I have it, but she doesn't.
And neither does Morgan.
Mine looked like that too, and then I started clicking random buttons, and then it showed something.
And Marshall's was doing something even confusing.
Yeah, it gave me a line. So I just closed my computer for the day.
Okay, that's fine with me. You know what? We'll do this again next time. I will try to figure out what's going on with your guys' the ones that aren't working correctly. If you did get it to work, I would suggest doing what Greta's doing and saving it. If you got it to work, I would save it so that you have the same syntax in there.
I deleted it.
All right, I apologize for this being such a
It was fun.
whatever type of show you want to call it.
Reality TV.
Reality TV? Sure. I had a different word in mind from it, but that's okay.
What word is that?
Colorful.
I just erased
All right.
everything that you typed out.
I think I like.
Well, I would take Control Z and then erased it, but yours isn't Control
We'll
Z.
figure it out.
I'm sorry.
Okay, anyway, do be sure you bring that baseball data file that I emailed to you,
Do you have?
and we will do that stuff next time.
This.
I emailed that to everybody this
Yeah,
afternoon,
yeah,
so
click.
bring that with you.
And then I did equal.
No, you don't need to print it, you just need to have it for your computer so you can play with the data.
Are we doing the same thing with that database?
I hope so. That's my plan. We'll see if it comes to fruition or not. Oh, I am so sorry. And that's the last thing that'll be on the recording.